I never knew the heartbreaking truth behind Cartoon Network's downfall. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. I sat in front of the flickering screen, heart racing, as the news broke, Cartoon Network was shutting down. My world felt like it was crumbling around me. The laughter, the adventures, those familiar characters, they had been my escape. Memories flooded my mind like a tidal wave. Those late-night marathons with my best friends, our laughter echoing off the walls, the way we dove into the colorful chaos of Dexter's Laboratory or the Powerpuff Girls. But now, shock replaced the joy. Each detail that emerged was stranger than the last. Rumors buzzed through the air, thick with intrigue. Executives found whispering about behind-the-scenes feuds, secrets hidden in boardrooms. I could almost hear the sharp intake of breath when they mentioned the lavish party celebrations full of smiles, yet whispers of discontent lurked in the shadows. What happened to the spark that ignited our childhood? It was as if someone flicked a switch and plunged us into darkness. The social media feeds exploded. Fans were enraged. Emotions ran high. I remember scrolling through posts, tears in my eyes as I read the desperate cries for answers. Why? They asked. What went wrong? Despair hung in the air, heavy and palpable. Cartoon Network was more than just a network, it was our childhood, our connection, and we were losing it. I'll never forget my friend Jake, his face pale, eyes wide with disbelief. How could this happen? He asked, voice trembling. He was a year older than me, the big brother I never had, always cool and composed. But even he cracked under the weight of it all. The world was slipping through our fingers like sand, and we didn't know how to stop it. As the rumors swirled, we heard whispers of a secret project, something so wild, so absurd that it could either save the network or doom it entirely. A hidden animation, rumored to be a collaborative disaster of epic proportions. They said it could revive Cartoon Network or send it crashing into the abyss. My heart raced at the thought. The tension grew thicker each day, our hope dwindling, yet we couldn't turn our backs. What if the truth was worse than we ever imagined? What if the madness going on behind closed doors was worse than the end of our beloved shows? I glanced at my phone, heart pounding. Was there still a chance to revive what we cherished? Could we unravel this mystery that seemed to consume us? I felt a surge of determination. I had to know more. But as I stepped closer to the edge of this tangled web, I felt an electric shiver run down my spine. What lies ahead? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The morning sun filtered through my curtains, a weak, golden shimmer that felt so out of place against the heaviness that settled in my chest. The day after I first learned of Cartoon Network's impending doom, everything seemed dulled, like someone had turned the saturation down on life itself. I picked up my phone, hesitated, and then clicked on the trending hashtags. The outrage hadn't died down, it had only intensified. Fans were rallying, sharing their favorite clips, pleading for the network to hear their voices. They were fighting for memories, for childhood. Much like I was, before you could say Cartoon Network, I found myself scrolling through the same pages, over and over, as if hoping that one refresh would bring a miracle. In my mind, an idea was forming, a whisper nudging me forward. Each post was fuel, igniting a fire deep within. What if I could help? What if I could be part of something bigger than myself? I grabbed my notebook and began to jot down ideas furiously, hoping to channel the chaotic energy into something constructive. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jake, the calming presence of yesterday now replaced with a sense of urgency. Meet me at the diner. I found something. He used to exude confidence, but there was a tremor in his words now, and I could sense his own turmoil lurking just beneath the surface. My heart raced at the idea of uncovering more. Could it be something related to the secret project? The diner was a small, welcoming place, with a flickering neon sign and an old jukebox playing classic tunes in the background. It was our refuge, a place where we'd reenacted our favorite cartoons, laughed until we cried over milkshakes and fries. But walking in that day, I could taste the bitterness in the air, a stark contrast to its reputation. Tears brimmed in my eyes as I spotted Jake hunched over a booth, a stack of papers sprawled before him. Hey. I slid into the seat, breathless. What did you find? He gestured to the papers, his brow furrowed. There are insiders that are supposedly leaking information. This project, the one that could either save or destroy everything, it's called Crossover Chaos. They've been working on a script for weeks under the radar. But it's an absolute disaster. His voice trembled with the weight of his next words. They say it could ruin the legacy. Hope drained from my veins, instantly replaced with dread. What do you mean disaster? Like, creatively, Jake nodded, a shy smile creeping in, perhaps to shield us from the gravity. Apparently, they've combined genres in a way that confuses everyone. A mashup of all the characters. Imagine Dexter meeting Billy and Mandy in an alternate dimension where all rules of storytelling are thrown out. Some fans are excited, but others? They're devastated. Who thought this was a good idea? I asked, my heart sinking further. It sounds like the executives have lost touch. But my voice began to rise with a flicker of anger. How could they even think to mix together adventures that have been so distinctly separate? Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know, but we can't just sit here and let them ruin what we love. We have to let our voices be heard. Fueled by the uncertainty and fear of losing everything that had shaped us, we began to craft a plan. We'd gather support, present the truths we uncovered, but as we flipped through the papers Jake had printed, a piece of crumpled paper caught my eye. It was a sketch, an absurd illustration of familiar characters colliding, each with expressions that blended fear and confusion. In the corner, it read, "The big reveal, prepare to be shocked." A chill ran down my spine as the implications sank in. Just then, a notification popped up on my phone. Updates from the network flashed on the screen, and my heart dropped. They were announcing a live press conference. This is it, I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. We need to be there. Jake looked me dead in the eye, his own heart racing, matching my urgency. But as excitement bubbled beneath the surface, an icy dread began to coil around my thoughts. What if the news worsened? What if this was the end of everything we held dear? Grabbing my things, I stood, prepared to dive into this new battle. As we left the diner, the morning air felt heavier, electric. Something both catastrophic and monumental was about to unfold. My fingers tingled with anticipation, but as we turned to the right, my phone vibrated again. I glanced down. A message, this time not from Jake but from an unknown number. We know what you're looking for. Meet us tonight. Everything will change. The words on the screen swirled in my mind. Anxiety mixed with a rush of adrenaline. The stakes had just risen dramatically, and with them, I knew, the possibility of the heart-wrenching truth was looming ever closer. The shadows lengthened as the sun dipped below the horizon, and the neon lights flickered to life around the diner. I could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing against my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. The mysterious message I had just received was an invitation or perhaps a warning. Jake walked beside me, oblivious to my internal turmoil, his excitement fueling my need for answers. What do you think they want? He asked, breaking the silence. The fervor in his voice was infectious, a distraction I desperately needed. I have no idea, I muttered, lost in the swirling chaos of my thoughts. But it could be a really big deal. I could see Jake's enthusiasm shine through his furrowed brow, battling against his own trepidation. Do you think they're insiders? Someone who hates crossover chaos just as much as we do? Maybe, I replied hesitantly. But it could also be a trap. We arrived at the designated meeting spot. A deserted park surrounded by towering trees, their branches swaying gently under the weight of the evening's creeping chill. It felt oddly appropriate to meet here, the earth damp and cool beneath our feet, like something from a forgotten fairy tale where hope mingled with despair. As we approached the park bench we were told to look for, my pulse quickened. A figure emerged from the dark, a silhouette against faded twilight, features obscured. "Are you two the ones who want to know the truth?" A voice croaked, splitting the silence like a knife. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. "Someone who's seen the other side of what's happening at the network." The figure stepped into the light, revealing a woman with haunted eyes and ash-blonde hair cascading around her shoulders. She looked weary, like someone who had fought many battles and lost. "I'm Sarah. I used to work for Cartoon Network." My heart raced. We had found someone who really knew the inner workings of the network and the turmoil it housed. "You know about the project? The crossover chaos thing?" Her gaze shifted, tracing the ground as if the answers lay buried beneath the dirt. "Yes. But it's worse than you can imagine. It's not just about combining characters. There's fear, uncertainty, they're dismantling everything foundational to save costs, but they think this wild idea will bring in new viewers." Suddenly, a tight knot formed in my chest. "This is all just a cash grab, isn't it?" Sarah nodded slowly. "It is. But there's more. A faction inside the network, they're pushing for this, and they're planning to release a whole line of merchandise tied to the project, new iterations of beloved characters, completely stripped of their charm." The anguish in my heart amplified, the reality of losing these characters became more tangible. I could already envision them drained of their spirit, trinkets on shelves masquerading as the friends of our youth. "I know you want to fight back," Sarah continued, her voice trembling. "But you should know it's not just the project you need to be concerned about. They're willing to go to extreme lengths." "Extreme lengths?" Jake echoed, unsure but gripped by the somber aura. "Someone within the network is trying to sabotage everything. They've become desperate. If you keep causing a stir, you could become targets. Or worse." Her warning wrapped around me like a tight vice, suffocating any remnants of hope. "Worse how? Let's just say, there are ways to silence dissenters in this industry." Just then, the darkness enveloped us as clouds rolled in, blocking out what little moonlight had provided the night's warmth. I glanced at Jake, searching for reassurance, but I found only fear etched onto his face. "Are you saying we could lose everything? Friends, our livelihoods?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Everything. If they're feeling cornered, they will strike back hard. I'm not asking you to abandon your cause. Just tread carefully." As she finished speaking, her phone buzzed, briefly illuminating her face before plunging us back into shadow. She glanced down, her expression changing to one of acute dread before looking at us with something akin to despair. "I have to go," she murmured, her voice almost breaking. "Just remember, some battles are fought in the light, while others hide in the shadows. Take care." With that, she turned and melted into the darkness, leaving us alone with our thoughts and uncertain futures. A mixture of determination and growing resentment flooded my veins. "We can't stop now," Jake asserted, his voice steadying in the stillness. "Not after all we've uncovered." But with each word he spoke, a part of me battled with the knowledge that we might be stepping into impending danger. We didn't know how deep this rabbit hole went, but we were falling. And as I looked up at the swirling clouds above, I couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing, ready to unleash chaos we couldn't have anticipated. Just then, a piercing scream shattered the stillness of the night, resonating in my bones as the sound skittered through the trees like a living thing. Our eyes locked. "What was that?" I gasped, the very air seeming to thicken with horror. This was not just about Cartoon Network anymore. Something much darker was looming, and I had a sinking feeling it had found us. The choice between bravery and self-preservation hung like a razor-thin thread between us, and I could sense the impending storm close in around our hearts. We were about to discover just how far we were willing to tread into the darkness. The echo of the scream faded into the rustling leaves, but the panic it ignited in my chest only intensified. My mind raced as Jake and I stood frozen in the shadows, hearts pounding in sync. "We need to get out of here," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, urgency lacing my words. "Wait," Jake replied, eyes wide as he scanned our surroundings. "It could just be some kids messing around, right?" His hope felt fragile, like a thin pane of glass ready to shatter. "Or it could be something much worse," I insisted, pulling my phone from my pocket, but the signal flickered in and out, rendering it almost useless. "We should head toward the streetlights." Just as I made the move to turn, another scream pierced the air, closer this time. It slid through the trees, a spine-chilling sound that seemed to curl around me and tighten like a vice. I felt Jake's grip on my arm tighten, a silent plea to stay put. "That we can't just stand here," I said, fighting against the urge to bolt. "We need to see what's going on." Jake hesitated, but there was a flicker of defiance in his eyes. "Or we could be the ones in trouble by going toward it. What if it's them? The ones Sarah warned us about?" That possibility drummed through my mind. The darkness felt as if it were closing in, yet I couldn't ignore the curiosity, a desperate need to understand the peril that lay before us. "Let's move toward the sound quietly," I whispered, and he nodded, though apprehension lingered like a shadow on his face. That we crept through the underbrush, each crunch of leaves beneath our feet echoing in the stillness. I strained to listen, hoping to decode the source of the disturbance. My thoughts battled between worry and resolve. We had to uncover the scary truth, yet I feared for what we might find. As we blended into the darker edges of the park, the moans escalated. This was not just a scream. I felt the familiar sense of dread pooling in my stomach like lead. We turned a corner, the foliage thinning, and there it was, illuminated by a faint beam of light coming from a nearby building. A figure on the ground, thrashing in distress. "Help! Please!" A voice begged, sharp with panic, dragging me closer against my better judgment. As I reached the periphery of the clearing, I saw her. She was about our age, tangled in what seemed to be a long, ethereal web, her fear-stricken face tinged with anguish. "What happened?" I called out, cautiously stepping closer, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Suddenly, a shadow darted across the grass opposite me, a figure cloaked in darkness, watching with predatory eyes. My heart raced anew. This was no ordinary encounter. "Get away from her!" I shouted, determination sparking in my chest. "I can't hold on much longer," the trapped girl cried out, her voice raw. "It's too late. They're coming back for me." Who were they? What had she uncovered? As the darkness coalesced around us, enveloping the shuddering girl, Jake's instinct kicked in. "We have to save her," he said, horror and courage intertwined in his gaze. But before I could respond, a noise erupted from behind us, shuffling feet, whispered conspiracies spilling through the trees. And then I saw her, the woman from earlier, Sarah, breathless and wide-eyed, scrambling toward us. "Don't!" she gasped, urgency drowning out her steadiness. "Why?" I managed to ask, my heart thudding in my chest. "The people hunting her here," she revealed, glancing anxiously at the oncoming figures before continue to us. "You can't save her without putting yourselves in peril." My gaze drifted back to the girl. I felt the swell of guilt pinch my heart. "But if we don't help, she'll face the same fate we are trying to escape," Sarah interjected, her face drawn and tense. "You don't know what these people are capable of." The shadows were drawing closer, and I knew time was running short. Within seconds, I faced a choice, a stark line drawn between caution and valiance. The girl's eyes pleaded with me, while Sarah's desperate warnings mingled with the fear choking me. "Please," the girl whimpered, and in that instant, her essence tethered itself to my conscience. As if whispering a litany of the injustices I couldn't bear to witness. And then it came, their silhouettes now ominous, flickering in the distance as they crept ever closer, dressed in darkness, drawn to the light of our hesitance. I could sense that the storm was gathering force around us, and desperation clawed at me. I inhaled, ready to make the only choice I still had. Grab her hands, I urged Jake, my voice steeled with urgency. It was a leap into uncertain waters, and there was no turning back now. As we rushed toward her, the ominous figures converged upon us, shadows rising like a tide. The fear was palpable. I felt trapped between realms, courage woven tightly with despair as the choice solidified. We could either remain in the shadows or take a chance on the fragile glimmer of hope that awaited in the chaos. I reached for the girl even as darkness pressed upon us, and as our fingers interlocked, the dawning realization gripped meth fight was only beginning. With no turning back, I braced for the storm that loomed ominously on the horizon. The moment our fingers clasped, a jolt of energy surged through me, potent with an inexplicable urgency. We stood at the precipice of a decision, and despite the primal instinct urging me to escape, the girl's frantic gaze forged an invisible bond that eclipsed my fear. Hang on! I shouted, trying to drag her free from the web that ensnared her. My hands slipped over the delicate strands, their texture unnervingly cool against my skin. Panic laced my words as I pulled with all my strength. Jake's breath hitched beside me, caught in the grip of surreal tension. He yanked at the strands, determination hardening his features. The darkness of the forest closed in, but for a brief flicker, the girl's eyes gleamed with hope, a beacon drawing us into the unknown. Then, the figures emerged from the shadows, and the brightness of our resolve shattered like stained glass. They moved with purpose, their postures menacing, each step on the fallen leaves reverberating with a threat that sent chills cascading down my spine. Stop! A voice boomed, deep and authoritative. I turned toward the sound, heart racing. The leader was tall, with an inscrutable face obscured by the hood of his dark cloak. His presence sent a wave of dread crashing over me. Release her, or face the consequences. That I hesitated, the gravity of his words dawning on me. We can't, I replied, trembling yet resolute. She needs our help, foolish children, he sneered, exuding a chilling calmness. She is a hazard, a mistake that should have been corrected long ago. You hold on to something that doesn't belong to you. Let her go. Jake yelled, a spark of defiance igniting within him. You can't enough. Another figure stepped forward, eyes glinting with unrestrained malice. You have no idea what you're meddling in. Fear clutched my heart like a vice, but within the confusion, a flicker of determination sparked anew. Each moment seemed stretched, like time was suspended just for us standing at the abyss. Please. The girl's voice broke through the tension, raw and desperate. I opened a door I didn't mean to. They want to take me back. If they succeed, I'll break everything. Her sincerity drove a fissure deep into my chest, the gravity of her words penetrating the veil of chaos. What do you mean? I managed to ask, holding her gaze as tightly as we held on to her hands. Before she could respond, the shadows surged closer, breathing down our necks like a storm set to descend. I could feel the hairs on my arms bristle with a sense of impending doom. Enough with this futile resistance, the leader grumbled, pulling a device from the folds of his cloak. It crackled with energy, sparking against the darkness, illuminating our faces briefly before dousing us again in shadows. You will not make this mistake any longer. And in that instant, as the air thickened with dread, a siren blared from far away, shattering the oppressive silence of the night. It pierced through the cocoon of fear, drawing attention toward the chaos unfolding in the darkened park. Now! The girl yelled, her urgency igniting a sense of rallying instinct within me. We need to escape. Quick, our instincts took over as we swung into action. Jake pushed forward, dragging our captive along as I turned to face the encroaching figures. Run! I shouted, reckless abandon fueling my urgency. The moment Jake threw himself to the side, bringing the girl with him, they were momentarily out of reach. I felt the suffocating grip of fear washing over me as I stumbled after them, struggling to regain composure amidst the chaos unfurling around us. But as uncontrolled chaos engulfed us, something unexpected happened. One of the cloaked figures reached out, stumbling over unseen roots and tripping to the ground, leaving enough room for us to bolt. Keep going! I yelled as I ushered Jake and the girl out of the orb of darkness surrounding us. We raced toward the nearest streetlight, the glow illuminating our path, but I could hear the curse of frustration echo behind us as the figures gathered, regrouping, their anger crackling in the air like a fierce storm. At the edge of the light, we stopped momentarily, breaths ragged, fear still primed to take flight. "They're going to come after us," Jake gasped, looking back into the dark. The girl leaned against a tree, panting heavily. "I'm so sorry, I didn't want my past to find me. I thought I could be free." A shudder crept through me, mingling with the rawness of her admission. "What are you talking about? Who are they?" "I'll explain everything, but first, we need to get somewhere safe," she replied, her urgency morphing into determination. But as we turned to flee, the sound of footsteps drew closer, growing clearer, a sinister reminder of our rapidly diminishing safe space. Just then, the leader of the cloaked figures burst from the shadows, his voice a low growl, resonating with the authority of a storm about to break. "You think you can escape what you've unleashed?" he snarled, locking eyes with me in a way that froze my blood. You have no idea how deep this web goes. In that moment, realization washed over me. His was bigger than me, bigger than us, and the truth she carried could change everything. And then, the ground beneath us trembled, the last solace of safety dancing on the edge of chaos. As all of our eyes widened in horror, the darkness surged anew, unveiling secrets that we were never meant to uncover. The shadows seemed to thicken around us, wrapping tighter, as if the very air conspired against our flight. The leader's gaze bore into mine, and I felt my heart drop, a sense of dread spiraling downwards like a sinking stone. "You don't understand, do you?" he whispered, words slicing through the tension like a blade. "This isn't just about her. You're all part of something much larger, a chain reaction that will unravel everything you've ever known." Jake and I shared a frenzied glance. The girl's face paled, a storm of emotions raging behind her eyes. "I can't let them take me. You have to trust me," she pleaded, gripping my arm fiercely. I opened a door that should have remained shut. "If they get me back," an echo of sirens grew louder in the distance, mingling with the cresting wave of anxiety washing over us. "We can't stay here," I urged, my voice barely breaking above the cacophony. I could feel the weight of time pressing down, tilting precariously as the leader advanced, shadows pooling around his feet, but the girl's grip tightened. "No. Wait. I need to tell you before it's too late." Her voice trembled, raw with an urgency that mirrored my own fear. "I'm not just any girl. I was part of their world, a world where reality blends with something far darker. I transitioned. I thought I could escape all of that. If they take me back, it'll rewrite everything. They'll reshape what you know, what you love." The weight of her revelation sank in, and I felt a disorienting churn in my gut. "What are you saying?" I demanded, half in horror and half in desperate yearning for clarity. "What do you mean they'll change everything?" The girl shook her head, tears shimmering in her eyes, caught between the fear pulsating from the shadows and the resolve to convey her truth. "Cartoon Network, the shows you grew up with, the stories you thought were just telestheory, a facade to shield us from the truth. They were a prison, and I was meant to be forgotten." I took a breath, the realization dawning harshly. "They want to erase you, erase all of us, our memories," I murmured. The implications were staggering, twisting through my mind like a dark current. The leader smirked, his dark cloak swirling as he took another step, his presence emanating a coldness that dug deep. "You're beginning to understand. Choose wisely, children. Help her, and your memories will crumble like dust. But let her go, and perhaps you can cling to the remnants of your childhood." "Stop!" Jake shouted, taking a step forward, his desperation etching lines on his face. "Why are you doing this?" But the leader only laughed, low and menacing. "Because it's time the truth was reclaimed. Time to tear down the lies." And then, without warning, the ground beneath us jerked as if an earthquake had erupted from the core of this treacherous dark world. I stumbled, clutching at the tree to steady myself, shock rippling through me as I witnessed the fabric of reality shift. The girl's voice cut through, fierce and determined. "We need to make a choice. We either stand with the past or we fight for a future that is ours. But before I could respond, the trembling grew fiercer, and the shadows behind the leader swirled angrily. A massive fissure opened in the earth, revealing a pulsating darkness below. The air crackled with energy, ancient and fearful. "Follow your instincts," the girl urged, her eyes steeling with resolve. "We can't let him take me back. It's our only chance." In that heartbeat, every fiber of my being screamed to run, yet a part of me remained anchored, rooted in the storm of choices before us. How could we possibly defeat the darkness that promised to swallow us whole? Would I be willing to risk it all for a girl I barely knew, yet who felt intricately connected to a truth that could reshape our entire existence? And just as quickly, shadows leaped from the opening, tendrils reaching toward us with a ferocity that stoked the flames of panic. The girl screamed as the force tore her away from my grasp. "No!" I lunged forward, reaching desperately as fear coursed through every limb, my heart pounding louder than the chaos that swirled around us, but then something even more terrifying echoed from the Fishuria voice that boomed with undying energy, whispers of forgotten tales swirling like leaves in the winds of time. "It is too late for some but not for others. The choice lies in your hands." And as I struggled against the pull of shadows, I knew with suffocating certainty that life as I knew it hung by a fraying thread, teetering on the brink of an unimaginable truth. Would I let go of what was familiar and plunge into the darkness for a chance to forge a new path? Or would I succumb to the relentless grip of fear, leaving the girl to her fate? With one final cry, Jake reached for me, but time slowed, the universe stretching as I took a step toward the pulsing abyss, heart racing, mind spinning in a whirlwind of doubt and faint glimmers of hope. The decision loomed before us, a choice that would crash through the fragile veil of our world and forever echo into the unknown. And as everything spiraled deeper into chaos, the revelation that swept over me was nothing short of devastating, that in our attempt to save the girl, we might just unravel the very threads of our own existence. The shadows twisted and writhed, hungry for the girl as they pulled her back, an almost sentient force that radiated malice. I could hardly breathe, every gasping inhale was thick with dread. The cacophony of chaos around me faded into the background, lost to the overpowering thunder of my heart pounding in my ears. "Don't let go!" she screamed, her eyes wide with fear and determination. "Trust me. Whatever happens, you have to believe in our choice." Jake's frantic grasp reached for her, but he was blocked by a curtain of shadow, a barrier erected by the malevolent figure cloaked in darkness. I stood frozen, the world narrowing to the suffocating weight of our decision. Should we risk everything for a fate encased in uncertainty, or let go and cling to the familiar fabric of our lives, however imperfect it may be? "Please!" the girl cried, tears tracing down her cheeks, glimmering in the dim light from the fissure. The shadows hissed around her, and a chilling breeze swept through the clearing like a dark prophecy whispering the end of hope. "Fight for me. Fight for all of us." Her words reignited a flicker of determination within me, igniting memories of laughter and light, of friendship and innocence that infused our lives with joy. Could I simply stand by and watch as it all faded into obscurity? No. Something deep within urged me to act. Just then, the leader's laughter erupted, an ugly sound that drowned out everything else. "You think you can change the course of fate? You're too late." He stepped forward, shadows contorting at his feet, ready to pounce. "Embrace your destiny or succumb to the nothingness you seek to avoid." That I felt a rush of anger surge through me, fueling my desperate resolve. "No!" I shouted, voice cracking but defiant. "You don't get to choose for us." Jake turned to me, confusion and fear wrestling in his eyes. "What are you saying? Are you really going to fight this?" "Yes," I exclaimed, taking a step closer to the fissure, feeling a strange pull toward the dark energy radiating from it. "We can't give in. We have to resist." As I lunged forward, a surge of warmth enveloped me unexpectedly, igniting a small flicker of hope. I felt the hand of friendship clasp my shoulder. Jake was by my side, a fierce determination mirrored in his gaze. "Together," he mouthed, and with that, we stepped toward the swirling darkness, towards the girl screaming for our help. "Together!" we shouted, and all at once, a wave of energy surged through us, condensing our resolve into one powerful force that drove back the shadows momentarily. They writhed in confusion as the fissure pulsated wildly, responding to our collective will, the very earth trembling in reaction. "Keep going," the girl urged, and as we advanced, I felt tethered to something deeper, an understanding of what was at stake. Not just our pasts, but futures yet unwritten. A kaleidoscope of moments danced in my mind, each one a reminder of who we were, what we stood for, and why the fight mattered. But just as we thought we were pushing through, the leader raised his hands, and the shadows reared back, cascading like a billowing storm behind him. "You will regret this choice. I promise you, what lies beyond is worse than the memories you want to escape." Suddenly, a blinding light exploded from the fissure, illuminating the entire clearing, forcing the shadows to recoil. It felt like something secrete, a fierce protective glow that beckoned us, offering a promise of safety, of truth, of a brighter future. The girl's eyes sparkled with an understanding, as if she knew what this light signified. "Trust the light," she shouted, and without knowing how, I felt it calling to me, wrapping around my heart like a soft embrace. It was a promise, a testament to all that was good in our world, a stark contrast to the growing malevolence lurking just beyond. Then, with a pulse of adrenaline, I released my fear and surged forward, grasping Jake's hand tightly, tugging him along as the light intensified. The shadows screeched around us, but we pressed on. The girl's hand stretched out toward us, and as we reached for her, the ground quaked violently beneath our feet, as if the very universe was tearing itself apart. And then, in an instant, the shadows lashed out, their claws grasping at the girl, one final push sending her into the depths of darkness, just as our hands clasped around hers. A heart-wrenching scream echoed into the air. The sound of her fear became a harbinger of despair, reverberating through me as I lost my grip on her. "No!" I cried, my voice a raw plea against the howl of the storm. The light surged, enveloping me and Jake, pulling us away from the chasm just as its remnants swallowed the girl whole. Darkness reigned, taking her away, and in that final moment before the light pulled us back, I felt an unbearable truth settle in the pit of my stomach. We had a choice, but it had consequences, ones we could scarcely comprehend. As we tumbled back, thrown into a world still shrouded in echoes and shadows, a revelation surged through my mind. What if we hadn't just lost her? What if, by attempting to save her, we had tethered ourselves to the darkness she had been running from, unlocking a chain reaction that could change our lives forever? And when the dust settled, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake, the truth loomed over us like a dark cloud. We had just awakened something far more terrible than we'd ever known. I blinked as the world settled around us, the remnants of the chaos swirling in my thoughts like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. The clearing was eerily silent now, the overwhelming thrum of darkness replaced by an unsettling calm. Jake and I lay side by side, our breaths coming in heavy heaves, the taste of fear still lingering in our mouths. "What just happened?" Jake whispered, a tremor in his voice. His gaze drifted toward the fissure, now a treacherous, empty void. The light that had beckoned us was gone, and with it, the fragile hope that had ignited in my heart. All that remained was a dark weight pressing against my chest. She's gone," I murmured, the words feeling like a confession of failure. We couldn't save her. Panic threatened to slip through the cracks of my composure, but I pushed it down, knowing that even more important than the guilt was the shadow looming over us, the unknown, which now beckoned with a whispered promise of despair. What did we unleash? Jake sat up, brushing dirt and leaves from his clothes, determination flashing in his eyes mixed with a veil of grief. We didn't lose her fighting. We need to figure out what this dark force wants from us. It can't just end like this. A flicker of gratitude surged through me for Jake's unyielding spirit. He was right. Just because we had taken a step back didn't mean the battle was over. I had to find a way to honor the girl's sacrifice, and if that meant delving into the depths of darkness we had barely scratched the surface of, then so be it. Rising to my feet, I peered into the fissure, now a haunting scar on the landscape. "Maybe there's a way to get her back," I said cautiously. My heart thudded with the weight of those words. Perhaps it was insanity to hope, yet that flicker persisted, urging me on. "Look," Jake said, kneeling and brushing his fingers across the ground. I knelt beside him, examining the earth that felt oddly alive beneath our touch. The dirt had a faint glow, a shimmering residue left in the wake of the light that had pushed us away. "It's like a thread, do you see?" I nodded, barely daring to believe what my heart was already proposing. The glimmer formed a ripple leading away from the fissure, winding into the woods. "Maybe it's a path, something to follow," I said, gripping Jake's wrist. "If we can trace it back, maybe we can uncover what we need to do." Steeling myself, I followed the glowing trail as it wound between the trees, the air thick with uncertainty and a chill of apprehension. Each step resonated with the rhythm of my heartbeat, punctuating my resolve as the glow pulsed stronger. Memories of the girl rushed back, her laughter, her hope, the way her eyes sparkled with the possibility of what could be. I couldn't forget her. As we forged deeper into the woods, a rustling sound broke the stillness ahead of us. I paused, gripping Jake's arm tighter. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," he replied in a hushed tone. The shadows danced, flickering uneasily like a heartbeat stuttering. Before we could react, a silhouette emerged from the trees. My heart sank, recognizing the familiar form yet filled with dread. It was one of the girl's friends, clutching something tightly to her chest, her expression a mixture of fear and determination. "You shouldn't be here," she gasped, eyes wide. "You need to leave before it's too late." "Wait," I called, stepping toward her. "What do you know?" "We have to help her." She shook her head, desperation etching lines across her forehead. "You don't understand. It's not just shadows, it's a hunger. They want more than just her, they want all of us. If you follow this trail, you'll draw their attention, attract their wrath. Please, you have to turn back." A heavy silence wrapped around us as our eyes locked, hers filled with terror, mine with defiance. "We can't just abandon her," I exclaimed, the anger bubbling over the suffocating fear. "Listen," she pleaded, her voice shaking. "The darkness is awakening something in you, something that ties you to it. You will be consumed. You think you can fight fate, but you can't." Her words struck deep, unsettling echoes of doubt gnawing at my resolve. Images of the shadows closing in on the girl flashed through my mind, a warning of what awaited us. But that desperation remained, a flickering flame against the encroaching tide. "We can't give up," Jake reiterated. "If we don't try, then we're just letting her slip away into this darkness forever." The girl's shoulders sagged as she stared at us, the fight fading from her. "The only way is to embrace it, to fulfill what has been sought after." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "But it may cost you everything. There's no guarantee you come back from it." "What do you mean?" I swallowed hard, the weight of her implication sinking into my bones. "Your bond with her is tethered to this darkness now. There's a chance, however slim, that you could find her. But it will change you like it changed her." She glanced toward the glowing trail. "She chose to confront it. If you follow, know that it may lead you to a part of yourselves you might wish had stayed buried." Jake and I exchanged a glance filled with unspoken questions and growing uncertainty. Everything inside me screamed to take that path, to chase after the promise of hope, even as anxiety clawed at the edges of my heart. But would I emerge whole on the other side of this journey? Would we? In that moment of indecision, the shadows began to writhe ominously around us, a whispering reminder that time was slipping away, and soon, the choice would no longer lay in our hands. What if we took the risk together? I asked, steeling my voice for what I knew was to come. What if we embraced the darkness and embraced what we become? In the silence, as the weight of the girl's friend's warning hung between us, the path glimmered ahead, begging us to choose. What awaited us through that darkness called to the deepest aspects of our souls, a journey fraught with potential ruin, but also the glimmer of hope we had desperately clung to, and with that unsettling mix of dread and anticipation, we took a step forward, aware that whatever lay ahead would change everything, and thus became part of the darkness we swore to fight against, the enchanting call of destiny entwined with heartbreak. As we ventured deeper into the woods, the air thickened with an electric tension that wrapped around us like mist. Each step resonated with an underlying rhythm, the soft thuds of my heart echoing in my ears. The glowing trail pulsed beneath our feet, its warmth a stark contrast to the cool, stifling night air, almost as if it were alive, urging us onward. Jake's shoulder brushed against mine, reminder that, in this tumultuous sea of shadows, I was not alone. His presence anchored me, yet an undercurrent of fear tugged at my thoughts. What awaited us beyond this threshold? What would we have to face, and would we emerge unscathed? This path, it feels alive, Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. Like it wants us to follow, it's like it knows us, I replied, my breath catching as the trees loomed overhead, casting long, spindly shadows that seemed to reach for us. But we need to be careful. The girl's friend warned us about the darkness hunger. It wants to consume us. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees, the sound sending a shiver down my spine. I stopped in my tracks, my heart racing as I instinctively reached for Jake's hand. Did you hear that? Yeah, he said, glancing around. We should keep moving. With a silent agreement, we pressed on, the glow beneath our feet illuminating the path ahead. Yet as we walked, unease pooled in the pit of my stomach. I was chasing shadows and whispers, a desperate hope brewing within me, but I had to ask, was it worth the cost? Then, without warning, the air split with a piercing scream, a wail that echoed through the woods like a siren's call. I froze, dread washing over me, my heart plummeting. That sounded like her. Jake's grip tightened around my hand. We need to go back, but the glow beneath our feet flared, almost reflecting my turmoil. We can't, I said, voice trembling. What if that was her? We might be running out of time. With a gasp, we were suddenly enveloped in darkness, the glowing thread dimming before us. The air crackled as shadows slithered around, distorting the world into a grotesque caricature of fear. We don't belong here. Jake shouted, panic clawing at his voice, but as quickly as it had come, the darkness retreated, revealing a small clearing ahead, bathed in an otherworldly light. The ethereal glow danced around the shape of a figure standing at its center, her back turned to us. My breath hitched, my heart screamed her name. It was her, the girl we had lost. Is it really her? Jake whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Before I could answer, the figure turned, and my breath caught in my throat. The girl's face was no longer the bright, innocent visage I remembered. Instead, her features had softened, shadowy tendrils coiling around her form like a protective shroud. You should not have come, she spoke, her voice echoing with an unnatural timbre, both familiar and foreign. That I took a step forward, fear and hope battling within me. We followed the glow, I stammered. We thought you needed us. We want to help you. A flicker of something crossed her face, pain mixed with an unsettling pride. Help? You can't help what you don't understand. This darkness, it is part of me now, part of you. I echoed, confusion and despair tightening around my heart. No. We can bring you back. We can fight it together. Fight? She laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine. You think it's something to be fought against? This is power, a freedom you cannot comprehend. In embracing it, I found strength. I am no longer bound by fear. And if you really care, you will turn back, turn back. Jake echoed incredulously, stepping forward. You can't expect us to leave you here, but she shook her head, her expression shifting from anger to sorrow, mouth an enigmatic line as if grappling with shadows of her own. It is too late for me. If you choose to embrace the darkness as I have, you will lose yourselves. That I refuse to believe that. I cried out, feeling the words shake loose of my throat. We love you. We need you. The shadows around her shifted, swirling tighter, the tendrils wrapping protectively. Remember, love is a choice. And sometimes, it is also a sacrifice. That I took a step back, the weight of her words hitting me with force. Was this what we were truly willing to face? To watch her slip away, consumed by the darkness she now embraced. As I struggled with the reality of my choices, a whisper broke through the air, slithering into my mind like smoke, don't let go. Or you will lose it all. Suddenly, the ground beneath us trembled, the glow flaring once more. It illuminated everything around, and then the shadows exploded outward, revealing twisted, monstrous figures clawing at the edges of the light. They were shades of fear, each one a reflection of our deepest worries, each face familiar. As the shadows lunged at us, twisting the bright hopes into grotesque nightmares, I felt the weight of despair crash around me. "Jake!" I screamed, but the words felt like stones, heavy and drowning. "Run!" he shouted, lunging in front of me, trying to shield me. In that moment, I knew there was no way to turn back. The battle we faced wasn't just for the girl. We were now a part of this darkness, our souls entwined in a dance of sacrifice and bravery. I felt the inescapable pull of fate as the shadows closed in around us, and everything shattered into chaos. I took a deep breath, heart pounding in the fight against despair, knowing that whatever came next could either save us or consume us whole. The darkness wrapped itself around us, shrouding us in a suffocating grip. Each grotesque figure hungered for what we held dear, and yet, at the core of my being, I felt a flicker of defiance igniting within me. The shadows danced, twisting our fears into something palpable, yet something nagged at the back of my mind, the realization that the real battle before us wasn't just against these phantoms, but within ourselves. "Jake," I gasped, my voice strained as I struggled against the clutches of despair. "We can't let them take us." His eyes met mine, shining in the darkness, a mirror reflecting my own dread and resolve. "We have to fight together," he echoed, and in that moment, a wave of determination washed over us, bridging the chasm between despair and hope. We could feel her presence, the girl we had come to rescue, the tether that linked us to everything we'd ever known. If this darkness was part of her now, we had to find a way to reach her, to pull her back into the light. The monstrous figures lunged, shadows intertwining as they roared with a cacophony of lost voices, but we stood our ground. "You don't get to decide our fate," I shouted, stepping forward, my heart pulsing against the abyss. "You will not consume us." And then I remembered the warmth of the light, the power it carried, and the bond we shared. I could feel it surging from my heart, igniting a blaze of memories that poured out of me like a waterfall, washing over our fears with vivid recollections of laughter and joy. "Feel it, Jake," I called, my voice launching into the chaos. "Our memories, every cherished moment flows through us like a river. We are not just fighting for her. We're fighting for every single heartbeat of our childhood." As my words resonated in the darkness, the phantom figures hesitated, as if the very essence of our memories ignited a spark of recognition deep within them. I turned to Jake, urging him to channel that heat. "Think of the adventures, the dreams, everything that made us who we are. We can reclaim it." We joined hands, clasping tightly, and together we closed our eyes, deeply delving into the warmth of the memories that wrapped around us like sunlight breaking through clouds. Together, we shouted again, the word echoing in our minds as a battle cry, reminding us of all we had fought for. As if on cue, a radiant glow erupted from us, vibrant and unfurling like the most beautiful dawn, pushing back the shadows with relentless force. The grotesque figures recoiled, shrieking as the memories of joy swept over them, unraveling their twisted forms. A crack of light surged through the darkness, illuminating our surroundings in a brilliance we hadn't thought possible. "We can save her," I cried. "We can bring her back." Jake glanced at me, and in his eyes, I saw the courage of our friendship glistening brightly. "We need to reach her," he urged, determination weathering the storm of panic in his expression. With our hearts intertwined, we pressed forward into the light, illuminating the girl's shoppy silhouette now intertwined with flickering shadows. "I believe in you," I shouted, with everything I had, sending our hopes and courage toward her. "Remember who you are." For a heartbeat, nothing moved. And then the darkness began to recede, peeling back like a layer of old paint, exposing the girl beneath. Her features transformed, the shadows loosening their grip as she blinked, seemingly pulling herself from a stupor, her expression flickering between confusion and recognition. "What is happening? Fight it," I urged, as the brilliant light surged around us, encircling her like a cocoon. The shadows hissed, angry and restless, but now they were receding, and hope poured into the cracks of despair. It was a moment suspended in time, where shadows battled light, and I felt the whole universe holding its breath, teetering on the edge of the unknown. As the darkness continued to retreat, The girl's eyes widened with comprehension, a glimmer of the familiar spark reigniting behind them. "I remember," she whispered, and with that, a warmth bloomed somewhere within me, filling the void that had threatened to consume us. A sense of purpose blooming into existence. The shadows faltered, twisting like smoke, losing form against the force of our joined spirits. And then she stepped forward, emerging fully into the warm embrace of light, her genuine smile piercing through the gloom. "Your love, it brought me back." In that split second, the weight of the girl's words crystallized within me, a revelation that ricocheted through my soul, binding us together. We vanished, leaving only a glimmer of starlight as the shadows fled into the horizon, wailing forlornly as they dissipated into the night. The world around us shifted once more, fading into a radiant expanse where laughter bloomed like flowers in spring. Suddenly, we were standing in the familiar landscape of our childhood, a blend of the fantastical and the mundane marked by the magic we once believed in. Joy surged through me, infusing our hearts with the memory of what had been lost and what had been reclaimed. As we stood there, I realized, we had reclaimed not just the girl, but the very essence of our shared memories, and in doing so, we unlocked a future woven from the fabric of love, friendship, and adventure. The girl turned to us, her face aglow, eyes sparkling. "I can't thank you enough." Together, we changed the darkness. And in that moment, standing side by side with Jake and our friend, I felt a warmth radiating from the depths of my soul, the belief that no matter what shadows we faced, our bonds were unbreakable. As I looked into the horizon, a brilliant sunrise broke, a promise of new beginnings and rekindled hopes. The story we thought had ended was merely the start of an even greater adventure, and as the light illuminated the world before us, I took a deep, steadying breath, knowing with every fiber of my being that our journey was far from over. But we had each other, and we were ready for whatever adventures awaited. And as I whispered softly to the rising sun, I realized the true miracle was this: the shadows had not won, for those who fight for love can conquer any darkness.